Imagine this. It's your 10th wedding anniversary. The table is set, candles flicker softly, and you're waiting for the man you built your life with to walk through the door. I'm Rebecca. And that night, instead of the romantic surprise I dreamed of, my husband handed me divorce papers. But that was just the beginning. What secrets was he hiding? And how did I find the strength to fight back and rebuild everything I thought I had lost? Stay with me to uncover the twists and turns of my journey. And don't forget to like, comment, and hit subscribe to support more stories like this one. The soft glow of candlelight reflected off the fine china, casting flickering shadows across the dining room walls. I adjusted the silverware for what felt like the 100th time, smoothing the delicate napkins I had carefully folded into perfect triangles. Tonight was supposed to be special, our 10th wedding anniversary. I had spent the entire day preparing, hoping to recapture the spark that had once defined Jack and me. The house smelled of roasted chicken and herbs, Jack's favorite meal, which I had prepared from memory, just like I used to when we first got married. I glanced at the clock. 7:45 p.m. He was late. Again. A small knot of unease settled in my stomach, but I pushed it aside, forcing myself to believe tonight would be different. Tonight we would sit down, just the two of us. No distractions, no kids. It would be a chance to reconnect, to remind ourselves why we had chosen each other all those years ago. The sound of Jack's car pulling into the driveway pulled me from my thoughts. I smoothed my dress, a burgundy silk number I had chosen because I knew he loved it, and took one last look in the mirror. My makeup was flawless, my hair cascading in soft waves. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of hope. "Happy anniversary, Jack," I called out as the front door opened. He walked in, his face tired, his tie slightly loosened. My smile faltered. He wasn't holding flowers or a bottle of wine, just a small, neatly wrapped box tucked under his arm. "Sorry, I'm late," he said flatly, barely glancing in my direction as he set his keys on the table. There was no warmth in his voice, no acknowledgement of the effort I had put into the evening. "It's okay," I said, my voice a little too bright. "I've been waiting for you. Dinner's ready." Jack's eyes swept over the dining room, the soft candlelight, and the table I had spent hours perfecting. For a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of something in his expression. Appreciation, maybe? But it was gone as quickly as it appeared. "Wow, you really went all out," he said, his tone detached. I gestured toward the table, trying to ignore the unease creeping into my chest. I wanted it to be perfect. For us. We sat down and I poured 2 glasses of wine, raising mine in a toast. "To us," I said, forcing a smile. "To us," Jack echoed, but his eyes didn't meet mine. He sipped his wine, then set the glass down and pushed his plate away after only a few bites. "Is everything okay?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. Jack leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "We need to talk," he said, his tone heavy with finality. The air seemed to leave the room. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He reached for the box he had brought in, sliding it across the table toward me. "Open it." My hands trembled as I untied the ribbon and lifted the lid. Inside was a stack of legal documents. At first, I couldn't make sense of what I was seeing. Then the words jumped out at me. "Petition for dissolution of marriage." The world tilted on its axis. "Divorce papers?" My voice cracked, the words foreign and bitter in my mouth. "I think it's time," Jack said, his tone emotionless. "We've been drifting apart for years. This isn't working anymore." Tears burned in my eyes as I stared at him, searching for some sign that this was a joke, a cruel misunderstanding. But his expression was cold, detached, as if he were discussing the weather. "Jack, how can you do this on our anniversary?" My voice broke, and I could feel the humiliation rising in my chest. "I thought it would be fitting," he said with a shrug, his indifference cutting deeper than any argument could. I pushed back my chair, the sound of it scraping against the floor, echoing in the deafening silence. My chest heaved as I fought to catch my breath. "I gave you everything," I said, my voice shaking. "I gave up my career, my dreams. For us. For this family." Jack looked away, refusing to meet my gaze. "I didn't ask you to do that." The words hit me like a slap. I grabbed my keys and purse, my vision blurred with tears. I couldn't stay there a second longer. "I can't do this," I whispered, turning away from him and heading for the door. "Don't be dramatic, Rebecca," Jack called after me, his voice condescending. "It's just a piece of paper." I paced slowly across the polished floor, my mind swirling with memories of my old life. A gentle, self-sacrificing teacher who believed in the goodness of people. But that person feels like a distant memory now. The pain of rejection has ignited something fierce within me, a burning desire to reclaim my dignity and expose the rotten core hidden beneath the facade of my ex-husband's family. The transformation is not sudden, but it is undeniable. I am no longer the woman who quietly endured. I am awakening to a new reality, where every hurtful word and every betrayal fuels my determination to seek justice. With each measured step, my thoughts churn. I reflect on the countless hours I spent nurturing my students, the joy of shaping young minds, a stark contrast to the cold indifference I now face from those I once loved. The memory of clearing that enormous debt, an act I believed was driven by love, now seems like a cruel joke. I question everything. Was my sacrifice ever truly appreciated, or was I merely a pawn in a grander scheme of deception? The realization is painful, yet liberating. In the depths of my despair, I find a flicker of resolve. I decide in that quiet, relentless moment that I will no longer allow their betrayal to define me. Sitting down at my sleek, modern desk, I pull out a notepad and begin to write. Each stroke of the pen becomes a declaration of intent, a plan to investigate every questionable financial transaction, to dig into the murky details that led to my downfall. I outline my goals with precision. I will trace every irregularity in the records, no matter how deeply buried, until I uncover the truth behind the $80,000 debt and the twisted motivations of those who discarded me so callously. The silence of the room is punctuated only by the soft hum of my laptop as I power it on, its screen casting a determined glow across my face. The numbers and transactions on the screen are no longer just figures. They are clues in a puzzle I am now determined to solve. I type out a rough plan, detailing the first steps I must take in my investigation. Every detail, every hypothesis is meticulously noted down. I can feel the old pain still simmering, yet it now transforms into a weapon, a tool I will wield against injustice. In that moment, the apartment ceases to be just a place of solitude. It becomes my war room. The gentle rain outside seems to echo the rhythm of my heart, a steady, unwavering beat of resolve. Though I am painfully aware of the vulnerability that lingers, a fierce determination burns within me. I realize that reclaiming my dignity isn't just about seeking revenge. It's about finding my true self, the self that was lost amidst the betrayal. As I sit there, absorbed in my thoughts and plans, I know that this is only the beginning. I have taken the first irrevocable step toward a path that will redefine everything. I glance one last time at the remnants of my past scattered around the room, then shut down my notepad. With a deep, steadying breath, I gather my things. The time has come to leave this sanctuary of isolation and face the world. Face the unknown allies and adversaries waiting beyond these walls. I stand, smoothing down the fabric of my carefully chosen outfit, and move towards the door. My heart races with both apprehension and determination, for I am about to meet Gabriel Knight, a man whose insights promise to be the next piece of this intricate puzzle. With the rain still whispering against the windows, I step out of my apartment, leaving behind a chapter of sorrow and stepping into the uncertain promise of a new beginning. I left the quiet cafe in a brisk hurry, my mind still reeling from the brief yet intense encounter I had just experienced. The soft murmur of subdued chatter and the clink of coffee cups faded behind me as I stepped back into the busy New York streets. At that moment, every step felt weighted with newfound urgency, and I couldn't shake the image of Gabriel Knight, an investigator whose piercing eyes seemed to hold a lifetime of secrets. The cafe itself was a stark contrast to the relentless pace of the corporate world outside. Its stylish, upscale decor and warm, inviting ambiance had offered a brief sanctuary from the harsh realities I'd been confronting. Within those walls, the air was filled with a quiet determination, much like my own simmering resolve. I sat across from Gabriel for only a short time, yet his calm, no-nonsense demeanor and the gravity in his voice quickly set him apart. He had an uncanny ability to cut straight to the heart of the matter, and I sensed that he, too, had spent years unraveling financial deceptions. During our conversation, Gabriel didn't waste a moment getting to the point. He pulled out his tablet and showed me preliminary evidence, irregular financial transactions tied to the Brooks family. His voice was steady as he explained how the cleared $80,000 debt wasn't an isolated incident, but rather part of a series of shady dealings that painted a much darker picture of corruption. I listened intently, each word fueling the embers of anger and sorrow that had been building inside me. Here was the connection I had been waiting for, the catalyst that would propel me deeper into this labyrinth of deceit. As Gabriel detailed the disturbing links between that enormous debt and a network of covert transactions, I felt a tug at my very soul. Part of me craved revenge, the sweet satisfaction of seeing those who had wronged me finally brought to justice. Yet another, quieter part of me trembled at the thought of losing myself in a spiral of vengeance. The allure of retribution was potent, but so was the fear that in pursuing it, I might become someone unrecognizable, someone consumed by the very darkness I vowed to expose. Then, as if to punctuate the weight of our discussion, my phone buzzed with an incoming email notification. I excused myself briefly and opened the message, my eyes scanning the contents with a mixture of hope and trepidation. The email was anonymous, yet it contained a snippet of detailed financial data, an undeniable clue of wrongdoing that directly implicated the Brooks family. In that moment, a surge of clarity washed over me. This was not a random tip. It was the confirmation I needed. The evidence was irrefutable, and it cemented my resolve to take control of my own narrative. I knew then that I had to shed the remnants of my past self, of the gentle teacher who had once placed unwavering trust in love. I decided that from now on I would operate under a new identity, Olivia Summers. This new persona would allow me to navigate the treacherous waters of financial corruption with the cold, calculated precision that the situation demanded. I would no longer be the woman who quietly endured betrayal. I would be a force determined to expose every hidden secret. After finishing my call, I rejoined Gabriel as we prepared to leave the cafe. "We're on the brink of something big," he said quietly, his tone laced with both warning and promise. I nodded in agreement, feeling the weight of the decision I had just made. As I stepped out into the cool afternoon air, I paused at the door of the cafe and locked it behind me, a symbolic act of leaving my old life behind. The scene that greeted me on the busy sidewalk was a mosaic of digital billboards and the rhythmic pulse of the city. I pulled out my phone and quickly glanced at a newly arrived email, the same one that had cemented my resolve. Its contents echoed in my mind as I walked, each number and data point a stepping stone toward a more profound truth. In that fleeting moment, I felt both the chill of isolation and the warming spark of determination. As I continued down the street, the display on my phone transitioned to a digital map showcasing clusters of suspicious financial activity. That map, with its pinpoint markers, hinted at the next phase of my investigation. I knew I had to expand my search, to dive even deeper into the labyrinth of financial records that concealed the true extent of the Brooks family's corruption. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my new identity settle over me. The journey ahead promised danger and uncertainty, yet I was ready. With the anonymous email as my guide and Gabriel's words still echoing in my ears, I embraced the transformation. Today, I was no longer simply a victim of betrayal. I was a seeker of truth, and nothing would stand in my way. I stepped into the private meeting room of an exclusive New York cafe, my heart pounding with anticipation. The space exuded an understated elegance, soft lighting, plush chairs, and hushed conversations that hinted at the sharing of secrets rather than idle chatter. I felt both vulnerable and empowered as I made my way to a reserved table, knowing that today could change everything. Across from me sat Melissa Reed, a tenacious investigative journalist whose reputation for breaking big stories preceded her. Her eyes were sharp and discerning, and I could tell immediately that she was not one to sugarcoat the truth. As we exchanged brief greetings, I noticed how the quiet murmur of other patrons faded into the background, leaving only the gravity of our conversation. I took a deep breath, preparing myself to dive into matters that had haunted me for too long. Melissa began by leaning in slightly, her voice low and steady. "Olivia, I've been following some disturbing whispers about the Brooks empire," she said. "Insider sources, disaffected employees, they've been quietly circulating evidence of financial fraud that goes far beyond that $80,000 debt." Her words hit me like a jolt of electricity. I listened intently, every detail amplifying my resolve. In that moment, it became clear. The corruption was far deeper and more pervasive than I had ever imagined. As Melissa outlined the preliminary evidence, she mentioned irregular transactions, shell companies, and questionable offshore accounts. I scribbled notes furiously, trying to piece together the disparate clues she was providing. My mind raced with questions. How had these irregularities been hidden so skillfully? And who was orchestrating this elaborate scheme behind the facade of a reputable family? The more I listened, the more I realized that exposing this corruption would require not just courage, but a meticulously built network of reliable contacts. Our conversation was interrupted abruptly by the shrill ring of my phone. I excused myself with a brief nod, stepping away to answer. The caller ID was unknown, and a surge of anxiety mixed with curiosity coursed through me as I picked up. A terse, urgent message from an anonymous tipster warned, "Someone in the Brooks family is onto your investigation. You need to be careful." The words sent a chill down my spine. I ended the call quickly, my pulse racing, and rejoined Melissa with a determined expression. "Looks like we're not the only ones keeping an eye on things," I said quietly, my voice betraying a mix of apprehension and resolve. Melissa's eyes widened slightly, then steadied. "That makes this even more important," she replied. "Hold on to every scrap of information, Olivia. This story, it's bigger than we thought." Her tone was both cautionary and encouraging, and it resonated deeply within me. With a nod of understanding, I swiftly wrapped up our meeting. I urged Melissa to secure all her gathered information, promising that I would be in touch once I had more details. As I left the cafe, my mind buzzed with the urgency of the situation. The anonymous tip was a stark reminder that I was venturing into dangerous territory, but it also fortified my determination. Every piece of evidence, every whispered secret was a step toward unveiling the truth behind the Brooks family's carefully constructed empire. Back at my apartment, I settled into my workspace with a newfound sense of purpose. I began meticulously arranging printed documents, emails, and digital records on a large corkboard pinned to the wall. Each note, each photograph, was a fragment of the larger puzzle I was determined to solve. The corkboard soon transformed into a sprawling tapestry of evidence, a visual manifestation of the corruption that lay hidden beneath layers of deceit. I spent hours sorting through the data, connecting dots that, until now, had seemed isolated and insignificant. The glow of my laptop illuminated my face in the dim light of the room, casting long shadows that danced along with my determined gaze. I could feel the gravity of what I was undertaking. This was more than just a personal vendetta. It was a mission to bring long-hidden truths into the light, to dismantle an empire built on lies. As I pinned each new piece of evidence to the board, I couldn't shake the feeling that time was slipping away. The ticking of the clock on my desk served as a constant reminder that every minute counted. I paused, running a hand through my hair, and took a moment to reflect on the weight of my task. Every detail mattered, and every connection could be the key to exposing the full extent of the Brooks family's misdeeds. Then, as I stepped back to survey my work, a particular document caught my eye, a critical piece of evidence that seemed to tie everything together. I leaned in, scrutinizing the details, and felt a surge of hope mixed with apprehension. I knew that this was only the beginning of a much larger battle, one that would push me to the limits of my resolve. I glanced at the clock once more. The urgency was palpable, and I could sense that the next step in my investigation was imminent. With my heart pounding, I gathered my notes and shut down my laptop momentarily. I knew that soon I would have to step out into the next phase of this relentless quest, to expand my investigation even further. A close-up shot of my corkboard with that critical document in sharp focus served as a silent promise to myself. I could almost see the digital map of suspicious financial hubs forming in my mind's eye, a hint that the truth was waiting to be uncovered. And with that, I prepared myself mentally for what lay ahead. I sit alone in my dimly lit private office, the only sounds coming from the quiet hum of my computer and the occasional rustle of papers. Piles of documents, bank statements, and glowing computer screens surround me, each piece of evidence a heavy weight in the balance of my mission. The atmosphere is tense, charged with the gravity of a truth that must be unearthed. In this secluded corner of downtown New York, the sparse yet purposeful decor mirrors the seriousness of my investigation. Every object, every light, seems to be aligned with the pursuit of justice. My focus is absolute. I am no longer the gentle soul I once was. I have become a determined force, honed by betrayal and driven by an unyielding need to expose corruption. Occasional phone calls and digital messages from Gabriel Knight serve as reminders that I am not entirely alone in this quest, but they also underscore the relentless pressure of the unfolding events. His support, though distant, is a steady beacon in the chaotic sea of financial deception. Today, a critical package arrived, sealed and unassuming. With trembling hands, I opened it to reveal a trove of detailed financial records, bank statements, and confidential emails. Among these documents was damning evidence that linked the Brooks family to systematic financial fraud and even hinted at a mysterious death. The case of Uncle Robert, long shrouded in secrecy. Each page I turned sent shockwaves through my mind, confirming my worst suspicions and forcing me to confront the full extent of their deceit. As I meticulously reviewed every document, a storm of emotions churned within me. The moral cost of my thirst for vengeance weighed heavily on my conscience. I struggled with the fear that in my pursuit of retribution, I might lose the very humanity I hoped to preserve. Every number, every transaction seemed to pulse with the memory of my sacrifices, and with each revelation, my inner turmoil deepened. Yet amidst the chaos of conflicting emotions, a resolute clarity began to emerge. I understood that exposing the truth was not merely an act of revenge, it was a duty to prevent further injustice. Driven by this newfound determination, I set about assembling a comprehensive plan for a public exposé. I knew that the evidence needed to be presented in a manner so indisputable that it would shatter the carefully constructed facade of the Brooks family. With deliberate precision, I organized the documents, highlighting key details and cross-referencing data until a definitive dossier began to take shape. This dossier, I realized, would be my most potent weapon, a final, irrevocable move against those who had betrayed me. My fingers danced across the keyboard as I composed an urgent email, its subject line bold and clear, "The Final Move." I sent it off to Melissa Reed, our trusted investigative journalist, signaling that the time for covert investigations had come to an end. This email was not just a message, it was a declaration that I was ready to take the fight into the public arena, to reveal every dark secret that the Brooks family had fought so desperately to conceal. After sending the email, I paused and leaned back in my chair, allowing the enormity of the moment to settle over me. I rose and walked to the window, gazing out over the sprawling New York skyline as the first hints of dawn began to break. The early light was soft yet resolute, a symbolic transition from the oppressive darkness of my past into the uncertain but promising light of a new beginning. In that quiet, reflective moment, I realized that I was on the cusp of a monumental change, not only for those who had wronged me, but for myself as well. Before I left the room, I glanced at my computer screen, where a digital countdown had just started ticking away. Each second felt like a heartbeat, counting down to the high-stakes corporate event where I would unveil everything. The urgency was palpable. Time was slipping away, and soon I would have to step out from behind the shadows and into the harsh light of public scrutiny. With a final deep breath, I gathered my notes and shut down my workstation, feeling the weight of the evidence and the resolve it had forged within me. I knew that every detail I had uncovered would soon be exposed to the world, setting the stage for a reckoning that could change everything. I remember stepping into the grand ballroom of a luxurious New York hotel, the air charged with anticipation and the electric buzz of corporate power. The venue was breathtaking, a cavernous space adorned with opulent decor, shimmering chandeliers, and rows of seats filled with elite businessmen, influential media personnel, and high society socialites. Every eye was fixed on the stage, and as I strode in, my heart pounded with both determination and a hint of apprehension. I knew that tonight, everything would change. The atmosphere was almost surreal. The room exuded a sense of grandeur that masked underlying tension. As I made my way toward the stage, the murmurs of the audience subsided into an expectant silence. I could see Ethan Brooks, Vivian Brooks, and Charles Brooks seated among the crowd, their faces betraying a mix of confidence and quiet anxiety. The media flashed cameras, and influential figures whispered among themselves, all unaware of the storm that was about to break. Without hesitation, I took the stage unannounced. The suddenness of my appearance, coupled with the intense glare of the spotlight, immediately silenced the room. I could feel every eye on me, and I knew that in that moment, I had to command the space and seize control of the narrative. My voice rang out clearly and with a resolve that left no room for doubt. I began to present the damning evidence against the Brooks family, outlining their financial fraud and the moral corruption that had been hidden behind their pristine image. Every word I spoke was deliberate and powerful. I detailed the irregular financial transactions, the shell companies, and the offshore accounts that had funneled money in ways that defied logic. I described how the cleared $80,000 debt was not an isolated incident, but part of a broader, sinister pattern of deception. As I spoke, I could see the reaction unfold. Ethan's hands trembled, his face a study in shock. Vivian's pallor deepened, and Charles struggled visibly to maintain his composure. The room was a cauldron of rising tension as the truth began to shatter the illusion of invincibility that the Brooks family had so carefully crafted. The turning point came when a series of explosive slides flickered to life on the screen behind me. Each slide displayed irrefutable evidence in real time: bank statements, confidential emails, and detailed transaction logs that left no doubt about the extent of their fraud. A collective gasp rose from the audience, followed by a tumult of shocked murmurs. In that moment, the once untouchable empire of the Brooks family began to crumble before everyone's eyes. The atmosphere was electric, charged with a mix of vindication and disbelief. In the immediate aftermath, chaos erupted. Corporate leaders from the Brooks side were forced to scramble, their faces etched with panic and confusion. I stood there, my heart pounding, feeling a bittersweet surge of triumph mixed with an unexpected emptiness. The victory was mine, yet the cost was palpable. For every piece of evidence I revealed, a part of me felt the weight of the sacrifices I had made. The confrontation had been necessary, but it left me questioning the true cost of exposing such deep-seated corruption. As the room slowly settled into disarray, I remained on stage, my eyes scanning the scene. I watched silently as Ethan and Vivian began to gather their things, their movements slow and disoriented. In that moment of quiet reflection, I couldn't help but feel a tinge of regret. Had the pursuit of justice come at too high a price? My mind raced with the memories of all I had lost, and with the knowledge that even in victory, I might be left with scars that no amount of truth could heal. The final moments of the evening were marked by a slow, deliberate pan of the camera over the departing figures of Ethan and Vivian. In the background, I caught a glimpse of a shadowy figure, a man whose presence I recognized all too well. Darius Cole lingered on the fringes, his expression unreadable, a silent promise of further twists to come. With the lights dimming and the last echoes of chaos fading into the night, I took a deep breath, preparing myself for what lay ahead. I knew that tonight was not the end, but merely a turning point, a public unveiling that had shaken the foundations of power. As I stepped off the stage, I carried with me the bittersweet taste of victory and the heavy burden of truth. I waked chaos echoing through the dimly lit corridors of the hotel. The aftermath of the exposé still vibrates in the air. Shouts, hurried whispers, and a palpable sense of disorder fill every corner. The grand facade of the event has given way to a labyrinth of confusion, and I find myself caught in the middle of it all. My heart pounds with a mix of determination and trepidation as I step into the backstage area, where the glamour of the corporate stage has completely unraveled. The corridors are barely illuminated, their dim lighting only heightening the tension. Every step I take reverberates off cold, hard walls. I can almost feel the remnants of power slipping away from the Brooks family as I move through this disoriented maze. It's a stark contrast to the opulent ballroom of just hours before, a reminder that even the grandest empires can crumble in an instant. In the midst of the chaos, I catch sight of Ethan, Vivian, and Charles Brooks. Their once unified front is now a fractured shell. Ethan's eyes dart nervously, Vivian's posture crumbles, and Charles struggles to maintain control. The atmosphere is charged with bitter resentment and panic. I brace myself as I sense that the next moment will change everything. Then, as if emerging from the shadows, Darius Cole makes his dramatic entrance. His presence is both enigmatic and unsettling, and he seems to glide through the corridor with an air of controlled menace. Without preamble, he begins to speak, his voice low yet cutting through the disarray with precision. He reveals long-held secrets about the Brooks family, secrets that hint at a level of corruption far deeper than anyone had suspected. His words sow discord among the Brooks, igniting heated whispers and furtive glances. In that moment, I see the seeds of internal dissent taking root, fracturing their already shaky alliance. As Darius continues, the tension in the corridor reaches a fever pitch. I feel the pressure mounting inside me, an internal struggle that pits my drive for vengeance against the nagging fear of becoming the very thing I despise. I have spent so long chasing justice that the line between right and revenge has blurred. His revelations force me to confront a chilling possibility. Could my own quest for retribution mirror the corruption I vowed to dismantle? The question gnaws at me, fueling both my resolve and my inner turmoil. The climax of the chapter explodes in a volatile confrontation between Darius and me. In a narrow, shadowed corner of the corridor, our voices clash. He challenges my motives with piercing accusations, suggesting that my relentless pursuit of the truth is tainted by personal vendetta. His words, sharp and unyielding, force me to confront the darkness that threatens to consume me. I fire back, my voice trembling with anger and regret, insisting that my mission is about exposing the rot hidden beneath their polished veneer. For a long, excruciating moment, our confrontation feels like a battle for my very soul, each accusation slicing through the veneer of my determination. Eventually, our exchange subsides into a heavy, suffocating silence. The damage is unmistakable. The Brooks family stands irrevocably divided, and I am left questioning whether the price of exposing their corruption might cost me my own humanity. As I stand there, surrounded by the fractured remnants of their power, I feel a profound loneliness settle over me. The taste of victory is bitter, tainted by the realization that some wounds may never heal. The chapter closes with an ambiguous, lingering moment. Darius, his expression unreadable, slips away into the night, leaving me alone in the disarray of the corridor. I stand there, my eyes fixed on the dark passage, reflecting a mixture of steely resolve and lingering doubt. The echoes of our confrontation still ring in my ears, and I cannot shake the uncertainty about the true cost of my crusade. Slowly, the scene transitions. The dim, chaotic corridor fades as I catch a glimpse of the soft light of dawn beginning to filter through a distant window. This subtle shift in light is a quiet promise that, even amid ruin, a new day awaits, a day that may bring a final reckoning and perhaps a chance for redemption. I wake to a serene sunrise over New York City, the soft glow of early light washing away the shadows of a long, tumultuous night. The golden hues that paint the skyline serve as a visual metaphor for renewal and hope, a promise that after darkness there is always the chance for a new beginning. Today I stand in a bright modern press conference room that doubles as a community center. The atmosphere is calm, yet charged with anticipation. Large windows reveal a recovering city below, and supportive faces from the community gather, their expressions a mix of hope and determination. This is not just another day, it is the culmination of everything I have fought for. I feel the weight of the past still lingering, but also the spark of a future where justice prevails. On the stage, I take a moment to survey the room. Former members of the Brooks family, Ethan, Vivian, and Charles, are present, now facing the full force of legal and public scrutiny. Their once commanding presence is reduced to that of figures burdened by the repercussions of their corruption. Alongside them, familiar faces such as Gabriel Knight and Melissa Reed stand in solidarity, reminders that I am not alone in this fight. Their unwavering support bolsters my resolve and makes the burden of my journey a little lighter. At the heart of today's event is a decisive announcement. Law enforcement and regulatory agencies have taken swift action against the Brooks family. I watch as news of their empire's collapse spreads throughout the room, the collective relief and satisfaction of the audience palpable. It is a vindication not only of my efforts, but of the countless voices that cried out for accountability. This is the moment when the facade of a corrupt dynasty finally crumbles under the weight of undeniable evidence. Despite the palpable victory, I wrestle internally with the cost of my crusade. The scars of betrayal and the loss of innocence still haunt me. In the silence before I speak, I acknowledge that every step on this painful journey has changed me irrevocably. But as I stand before the assembled crowd, I realize that my transformation is not merely about vengeance. It is about paving the way for systemic change. Every sacrifice, every tear has led to this turning point. With a deep, steadying breath, I step up to the podium. My voice, though heavy with emotion, rings out clear and resolute as I announce the establishment of the Olivia Summers Foundation. This foundation is dedicated to supporting victims of financial fraud and restoring trust in corporate ethics. I speak passionately, my words a blend of healing and inspiration, urging the community and industry leaders to join me in rebuilding a future based on transparency and accountability. The reaction is immediate and overwhelming. Applause breaks out, interspersed with nods of approval from community leaders and influential figures. The media captures every moment, and the once crumbling legacy of the Brooks family fades into insignificance as the promise of a fairer, more just future takes center stage. Yet even as the cheers echo around me, I know that my personal journey is far from over. The path to true redemption is long and winding, and while today marks the end of one chapter, it also signals the beginning of another. I step away from the podium, a mixture of relief and determination etched on my face, ready to embrace the next phase of my life. In the final moments of the press conference, a montage of future possibilities plays in my mind, a symbolic passing of the torch. I walk out into a bustling New York street, the city alive with promise, as I quietly vow to continue fighting for justice and reform. This is not the end. It is a hopeful new beginning. I reflect on the long and arduous journey that has brought me to this moment, a journey filled with betrayal, relentless pursuit of truth, and the discovery of inner strength I never knew I possessed. Through the darkness of despair, I emerged with a renewed sense of purpose, transforming my pain into a beacon of hope and change. Every setback and every secret uncovered has paved the way for a brighter future, one where justice prevails and compassion is restored. This journey has taught me that even in our deepest wounds, there lies the power to rebuild and to heal. Now, I invite you, our cherished audience, to share in this moment of renewal. If my story has touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, and share your thoughts. Your engagement inspires me to continue sharing stories of hope and resilience, and it helps to spread a message of unity and positive change. Don't forget to subscribe for more content that celebrates the triumph of the human spirit and the promise of new beginnings. Thank you for joining me on this deeply personal journey. I am forever grateful for your support and your willingness to listen as I revealed the truth and embrace my transformation. While this chapter of my story has reached its end, the journey toward a better, more compassionate future is just beginning. Together, let's continue to believe in the power of hope, kindness, and the endless possibilities that tomorrow brings.